to succeed in today's highly competitive marketplace.
In this program, we're going to look at the 15 basic skills of professional selling. Now, skill number one is selling is to people. We've repeated this so many times, but it is so important. Let me give you an example of the importance that we all sell to people, that we don't sell to offices. We like to buy from people that we like. Imagine that you are a smoker, and in the street that you live in, there are two tobacconists. One tobacconist is the classic, enthusiastic sort of individual. Every time you go in, he remembers your name. He automatically has got the cigarettes all ready for you. He gives you the change nicely. He passes the time of the day. He has a little chat and a big smile on his face. A little further on down the street is the other sort of tobacconist, the real grouch sort. You know, every time you go in, it's almost, you feel a little bit insulted by going in. You're almost a pain in the neck. The fact that he has to get your cigarettes out. He throws the change at you. He never knows your name, never even recognizes you. Now, as a smoker, which shop are you drawn towards? Obviously, the person that you get on well with. We all like to buy from people that we like. Now, supposing the grouch is a penny a packet cheaper, which tobacconist do you go to? We can tell the misers in the audience. Now, that's not the point. We all know the answer. In most cases, even though the grouch may be a penny a packet cheaper, we are drawn towards the person who is really enthusiastic. We like to do business with people that we like. Now, do you remember the 84%? 84% of all commercial decisions are based upon emotion and not logic. And that's a classic example. People like to buy from people that they like, people they get on well with. I remember so well a few years ago, when I was farming, one day a fellow came onto the farm and the conversation went a little bit like this. He said, "My name is Chris Bowles, I'm from Silcock Lever Feeds, I've just taken over the area, Mr. Denny, so I thought I'd pop in and introduce myself." And he just stayed around for a few minutes. He said, "Look, I won't hold you up because I expect you're very, very busy. I'll be around again next month." And off he went. I thought, well, that's a nice fella. He realized I'm busy, no high pressure stuff, and away he went. A month later, he came on the farm again. He said, "Hello, Mr. Denny, remember me? I'm Chris Bowles from Silcox." And we chatted a bit more about various things. And he said, "I'll leave you a leaflet." He said, "I'll be around again next month, and I'll pop in and have a chat with you then." And away he went. Again, I thought, nice guy. Got on really well with him. A month later, he came on the farm. I remember as he arrived, I said, "Hello, Chris." He nearly got me, hadn't he? I said, "Hello, Chris." And we chatted a bit more, and he asked me how things were going. I told him things were bad. All farmers say things like that. And we just generally chatted about various aspects of life. And it so happened at that stage, I had a problem with one of my calves. And I was telling him a little bit about this particular calf. And he said, "Why don't you buy a bag of our calf food?" And I thought, bag of his calf food, couple of quid, why not? So I bought a bag of his calf food. Within 6 weeks, he had taken the whole of my cattle and pig feed order. He got the lot. Now, I don't know how he did it, but on thinking back, I bought Chris Bowles. I didn't buy his brand of feeds. And ladies and gentlemen, you know how much business that you have generated because you've got on well with somebody. So let's never lose that aspect of selling. People buy from people they like, not necessarily because of some aspect about their product. So that's the first point of our basic selling skills. Now, in doing just that, in getting on well with people, you have to sell yourself. But how? How do you sell yourself? Everybody's heard this. You've got to sell yourself first before ever you sell your product. Isn't that right? You've all heard that? But how do you sell yourself? Imagine I'm selling glasses. Now, if I'm selling glasses, what would I talk about? Can I ask you, what would I talk about if I was actually selling glasses? Glasses. Glasses, of course. I'd have to talk about glass. I'd be talking about these glasses. Now, if you are selling yourself, what would you be talking about? Yourself? Certainly not. No, no. In no way, in order to sell oneself, has one got to talk about oneself. To sell oneself, one has to talk about the other person, to get the other person to talk, to draw them out. I'm sure you've all experienced a cocktail party. And you've gone to a cocktail party, you've been introduced to a person you haven't met before, and then they start off. and they lead into a great tirade all about themselves. They tell you all about their life history, they tell you about their job, they tell you about their children, they tell you where their children are being educated, they tell them all the funny little things about their children, and then they really get heavy on their product line. They try to tell you all about the aspects of it. They tell you about people in the office and the various characters who are in the office. Finally, somebody comes and rescues you, and you go away, possibly mentally exhausted. Now, how does the other person go away? They go away saying, oh, you must meet my new friend. What a great conversationalist. Oh, lovely guy. But you go away thinking, oh, what a bore. Now, what has happened there? We've all experienced that situation at some stage or other. The person has been talking about themselves. The sweetest sound in any language is the sound of a person's own name. So it's using their name and drawing them out. That's how you sell yourself. So easy, really. Let's take another example of how people buy people. We must remember that we sell to people. In an office, there are two buyers. There is the main buyer and the assistant buyer. I'm going to say this gentleman here is the main buyer, and this is the assistant buyer. Now, let's imagine, over the years, I've developed a great relationship with the main buyer. We are on Christian name terms, and we've got a good thing going over the years. Every time I go into the office, I ignore the assistant buyer. I walk in the office and it goes something like this. Morning, is he in? Go straight in, have a chat, come out again. Yeah, bye, and go straight out. Ignore him. I continually ignore the assistant buyer. One day, my buyer is no longer there. Perhaps he's been promoted. Perhaps he's been fired. Perhaps he's gone somewhere else. Whatever. But he's no longer there. The assistant buyer is now in the position of the buyer. And the assistant buyer has been waiting for this day at long last. I arrive in the office and I say, morning, is he in? He says, no, he's not in. I say, oh, where's he gone? He said, he's left us. Oh, so you're the big white chief then? I say, yes, he says. I say, well, I suppose I better do some business with you. And no, he says, out you go, at long last. Over the years, he's been waiting for the opportunity to ear on me right out of that office, and he's developed his own contacts. So, ladies and gentlemen, never forget other people within an office. We sell to people. Understand how other people feel and their relationships and their feelings towards you. Point 2, ask questions. Find out exactly what people want. It's one of the major mistakes that's made in the sales world is that people do not find out enough information. Now, let me give you a quick example of this. Something that I experienced just a short time ago. I required a new telephone answering machine in my office. So I called a number of companies in to tell me about their particular products. I remember the first salesman that arrived, he had the answering machine tucked underneath his arm, he sat down in front of me, and he launched straight in to tell me all about this particular product. He certainly believed in his product. He told me every single aspect of it, all its features. He certainly linked that to a few benefits, but he failed to have the courtesy to ask me exactly what I wanted. And this happens so often in the sales world. People don't have the courtesy to stop and find out, asking a few questions, to be able to home in exactly upon what people want. And in asking questions, we have to find the prime desire. Find the prime desire, exactly what is wanted. Let's take a very simple example of that. When you ask somebody a question, they will more than likely reply with what I term the apple answer. But the prime desire is the core. And in order to find the core, you have to ask open-ended questions. You have to take bites out of the apple in order to get into the core. And the sort of questions should be prefaced with these words: how, when, what, and why. This leads you in until finally you're right in on the core and you've got the prime desire. With that, you now can go ahead and make a sales presentation. Now, there's another example of this, an example I'm sure you can all remember, back to the Second World War. Everybody remember the Second World War? One or two of you don't remember the Second World War. Okay, let's remember the Second World War and the anti-aircraft guns. And what used to happen would be this. The anti-aircraft guns would open up when an enemy aeroplane came overhead. And they would fire away shell after shell after shell. The air used to become almost black at times with smoke and bits of shrapnel flying around. But they didn't get very many hits. Modern warfare has these guided missiles, these heat-seeking missiles that home in on the exhaust fumes of an enemy aircraft. And invariably, they score a hit. And this is what good selling is. Not blasting away with all guns, hoping one's going to find the point, but homing in on the main point, the prime desire of what people are really looking for. Number 3, listen. Everybody's heard that. You've got to listen to what is said and listen to what is not said. Now, everybody in sales knows that they ask questions and then they've got to listen to what the person replies. But what so often happens is the salesman is thinking about what he's going to say next rather than listening. We can get an enormous amount of information from what people say, but equally important, from what they don't say, from what they leave out. So listen. We all have 2 ears and 1 mouth, and that's the ratio they should be worked in. Point 4, link features to benefits. Now, what are features and what are benefits? Let's first of all have a look and explain the features of this handbag. This is a leather handbag. It has a central pocket on the front here. It has 2 zips, 1 zip here and 1 zip just behind, and it has a carrying handle. Those are all features of this handbag. Now let's link the features to the benefits. This is a leather handbag, which means it's very durable and would last a number of years. Here is a central pocket, which is very practical for keeping loose change in for easy access. The first zip on this side means you can put in here the wallet or check cards, and again for easy access. This pocket on this side just behind is a very large pocket, easy for keeping a checkbook in. And here is a carrying handle, which means you can either slip your hand through here and carry it this way, or in turn release this and suspend it on a belt, thereby preventing your handbag from being stolen or lost. You see what we did there? We linked the features to the benefits, but the link phrase, which means that. People want to buy the benefits, not the features of a product or service. And the poor salesman just sells the features, but never the benefits. So the benefits must equally relate to the purchaser. Let's just take an example of what I mean by benefits to the purchaser, because we sell to people. And there can be different prime desires within a company from 2 different categories of people. Let's take an example of that. I want you to imagine that right now I am selling office cleaning to a company. And within the company, there are 2 people who are involved in the decision-making process. Over here, we have the office manager, so I want you to imagine that you are the office manager. Over here, we have the managing director of this particular company. How does that feel? Excellent. Good? Right. So we have 2 individuals. Now, in my research, I have discovered various points of interest from these 2 people. The office manager is very interested to have the whole load of office cleaning and the worries of that removed from his shoulders. He is equally interested in making sure that the standard of cleanliness throughout the offices is right up to standard, and he doesn't get into any problems from the people who work in the offices who are ever moaning that the dustbins aren't emptied properly or the ashtrays are dirty. So that's his main interest. The managing director, on the other hand, his main interest is money, because he has to write out the checks. He's interested in profits, and he wants to know how much it's going to cost, whether it's going to save him any money, but equally, he's interested to make sure he has clean offices. So, there we have the scene. I've discovered this through my fact-finding research, those various points of information. So when I come in to sell to these 2 people, this is how I will relate it to them. Mr. Office Manager, during our research, various things did come to light, but I can reassure you on 1 or 2 points. First of all, with the services that we provide, the personnel that we put in are of the highest caliber, are completely trained, and your offices will always be clean to the standards that you and your people obviously require. Furthermore, we're going to be able to take the whole responsibility completely off your shoulders. Any fault whatsoever, come to me, we check regularly, and we will maintain the standards continually throughout. Mr. Managing Director, 1 or 2 points came to light through our earlier discussions, and I can pleased to be able to reassure you on certainly the aspect of costs. But first of all, as far as the standard that you require, we can do that. We have highly trained people who will always keep your offices absolutely clean to the standards that you've been looking for over the years but haven't unfortunately been able to quite get with the various changing of personnel that you've been suffering. As far as price is concerned, I believe we're going to be able to save you £4,000 a year on your current cleaning bill. Do you see what we did? We related the benefits to the individual because we must remember we sell to people. Point five is to sell results. It's results that people want. They don't just want a product, they want results. Now, how do you sell results? Let me give you an example of that. Somebody goes along to an ironmonger and they say to the ironmonger, I want a 1/4-inch drill. And the ironmonger says, no, you don't. The individual says, well, as a matter of fact, I actually know what I want. I want a 1/4-inch drill. The ironmonger says, oh, no. Who is right? In actual fact, the ironmonger is right, because nobody in their wildest imagination has ever wanted a 1/4-inch drill. What they want are 1/4-inch holes. They can't go and buy 1/4-inch holes, can they? So they have to go and get the drill. Now, supposing the ironmonger says, sorry, no drills in stock. But what do you want a hole in? I want a hole in concrete. Now, I'd like to make a hole in wood. Fine, I've got a widget that'll do that. Excellent. A sale can take place. So we must remember to sell the results. That's what people want, not the product. Let me give you another example of this, ladies and gentlemen, because it's such an important area of good communication and what professional selling is all about. I want you to imagine that I'm now going to give a talk about snow skiing. You people are all interested in skiing, and you've never been skiing before. So I'm going to try and sell you on the idea, but I'm going to give you 2 ways of a sales presentation. Now, for those who haven't been skiing before, the normal sort of process is you go along to a travel agent, and from the array of brochures, you choose a particular resort that appeals to you most. Having made the choice for your resort, it's obviously then necessary to go ahead and get some equipment together. So you go along to a ski shop to purchase all the gear that is necessary. You'd start off with your clothing, obviously. Now, it's a good idea to have some waterproof clothing. It's your first time going skiing, because you spend quite a bit of time actually in or on the snow. You could have a 2-piece ski suit or a 1-piece ski suit, whole range of colours to choose from. Then you need your skis. Now, the choice of ski used to be governed by one's height, though right now there's a tendency to start off with a much shorter ski because apparently it's easier that way. You could have them made in wood, steel, plastic, synthetic resin, whole range of materials. Then you need your ski sticks. You don't want them up there, you don't want them down there, you want them about there, so the balance is about right, don't you? Now, that's one way of talking about skiing. Let's look at it another way, by selling the results. Ladies and gentlemen, for those of you who haven't been skiing before, the normal sort of process is you go along to a travel agent and you choose from one of the array of brochures a resort that appeals to you most. You eventually arrive at your resort, and it's quite natural then that you want to get up on the mountainside as quickly as possible. So one normally takes one of these cable car lifts, and that's a marvelous experience in itself as you stand in the cable car and silently it starts to move up the mountainside. You see the scene that you leave behind, the houses with the overhanging eaves and all the snow dripping off. So picturesque that. The sight that's then so noticeable is you seem to be going actually up amongst the trees. Then suddenly everything's obliterated from view as you go into the cloud. You come out of the cloud and you see the sun sparkling on the snow. The cabin comes to a halt, you get out, you put your skis on, you take the first movements on the mountainside. The feeling of exhilaration, the sound of the ski on the snow, the crispness of the air. Marvelous. Do you see the second way was talking about results, using some words to build a picture. Can I suggest that nobody would be motivated to go skiing because they could have a wood ski or a plastic ski, or even if you could have a 2-piece ski suit or a 1-piece. But you might be interested afterwards if you've decided to go skiing. So sell the result first, and then what is needed in order to achieve that result. Why do people buy makeup? It's because they want beauty. So let's sell beauty, not just the makeup. Number 6, be careful of product knowledge. It's terribly important to have, absolutely vital to have. The purpose of product knowledge, ladies and gentlemen, is for your benefit, not your customers. Don't dump product knowledge on your customers. It's very easy to completely blind them. The theme is sell, don't tell. Sell, don't tell. You can have the best educated prospects in town, but no customers. And in handling product information, and particularly company information, remember the so what test. If ever you say anything to anybody, and the listener, the potential customer, can subconsciously say to themselves, so what, you shouldn't have said it. Let me give you an example of that. The salesman who says, and my company's been in business for 25 years, and we've last year apparently made £6 million worth of profits. The customer can say, so what? It's of no interest to him. Now, how can one use that sort of information for the benefit of the customer? What the good salesman will say, we've been in business for 25 years, which means we've built up a wealth of experience in your industry, which in turn we're able to pass on to our customers. Last year, we made £6 million worth of profits, which means that we are able to reinvest vast sums of money into research and development to make sure our customers are getting the most updated products ever available in the current marketplace. Relate it back to people. Never say something that anybody can ever say, so what to. Number 7, don't get hung up on the price. I wonder how many have ever heard of that expression, price-itis. Anybody ever heard of price-itis? You know, there are a few people around who catch this, it's this illness, price-itis. They catch price-itis because what they start to feel about their product is that it's too dear, it's too expensive. They say, if only we had a cheaper price, then I could sell a little bit more. And it's absolute rubbish, absolute complete bunkum. People don't just buy price, people buy value. One must make sure that one doesn't catch price-itis. You don't start to believe that you are too expensive, that the competition is better or they're cheaper. We talked previously about the cheapest car. Is the cheapest car the biggest selling car? It's not, is it? But why isn't it? Should be, it's the cheapest. So cheap doesn't necessarily sell. Now, over the years, it's very easy to get too familiar with your products. When somebody first starts out in a company, that's when their enthusiasm is normally at a peak. They learn the product knowledge, they're excited about it, they get started. Then over the weeks or months and years, they become very familiar with their product or their service. They start to believe everybody else is better and cheaper and whatever else. One becomes too familiar. Be aware of that. Don't let that happen. Once you start to become too familiar, you're losing some of the power of enthusiasm to communicate effectively. So rebuild your belief by talking to your best customers. Rebuild the value of the service and the product that you give by listening to people who've previously purchased. We sell value, not price. Number 8, keep it simple. Keep it simple. If ever in doubt, choose simplicity. We live in a high-tech age. The world of the computer is certainly with us right now, and there is a tendency for people to complicate things far too much. Use words that everybody can understand. Communicate on a way that everybody can really get into. Don't talk above people and blind them with science. Communicate. The professional salesman is a communicator. So keep it simple. Don't ever be patronizing. Don't blind with jargon. Every industry now is full of jargon. Every company has in-house terminology that the people within the company are familiar with, but if it's used on potential customers, it becomes a talk down. So don't blind people with jargon. If you have to use a phrase or an abbreviation that people may be unaware of, let's take an example of that. TWT. What I would say, if I was going to use this on a client, I'd say TWT, as you know, means is total working time. Build people up, as you know means. Builds people rather than the reverse of talking down. And when closing a sale, again, make it simple, make it easy, don't complicate it. Take the example, the salesman at the point of the closure of acceptance acceptance of the order in front of his customer. He says, thank you very much, Mr. Customer, for your order. I'm very pleased to have it. Now, just one or two points of formality that we have to go through. I need these forms filled in. There's only 4 forms, so it won't take you too long, but I would like them in triplicate, please. And as well as the 4 forms and the questionnaire completed, I want 3 bank references. I would like 2 trade references, and that'll do for starters. Okay, completely farcical. I'm going over the odds, but I'm trying to make the point. At the end of a sale, from time to time, we need references, but make it easy. Say, fine, there's just 1 or 2 points of detail. We have to obviously take some references, as you would do when you take on a new client. It doesn't mean to say we don't value your business, but it's obviously, I'm required to do it for security of our accounts department. So I need a bank reference. Now, who can we write to on that? A trade reference, can you give me that? Make it easy. Don't ask people to do any work. Keep it simple. That 4-letter word, KISS. Keep it simple, stupid.
8 key areas which distinguish the professional salesperson. Always sell yourself first. Ask questions to locate the prime desire. Listen to what is said and what is not said. Link features to benefits. Always sell results. Take care of product knowledge. Convert the price into value. Keep it simple. In the next section, 7 more areas vital for success in selling.
Number 9 of our 15 basic selling skills. Sell the add-ons. Okay, I do accept this may not apply, but in a lot of businesses, in a lot of industries, there are products that are an add-on to the existing sale. And the sort of way people lead into the add-ons is they say things like, will there be anything else? Now, isn't it disastrous? When anybody says to you, will there be anything else? What's the normal sort of reply? No thanks, that's all for now. Absolutely. Have any of you bought a pair of shoes recently? Let's say in the last 5 years. Anybody? Okay, now have you noticed that how the shoe trade has upgraded its whole standard of performance of salesmanship? Having made your purchase and selected the shoes, the sales assistants now say, how about some shoe trees? How about some shoe cream? How about some cleaning cloths? So not only have you purchased your shoes, but you end up by walking out with having spent an extra £4 or £5. Now supposing they said, having made the selection of your shoes, sir or madam, will there be anything else? No, of course not. So sell the add-ons. Never go into the add-ons with, will there be anything else? Number 10, good selling is motivation. Motivation, not manipulation. Now, motivation is helping somebody to achieve what they want. Manipulation is getting somebody to do something because you want them to do it. Now, the professional seller motivates, he or she doesn't manipulate. And part of that process is finding out what people want and then showing them how to get it. In other words, one matches the sale. One causes a marriage to take place. That's motivational. Manipulation, of course, is the complete opposite to that. So, match your sales up. Find out, motivate people. And having made a sale, can I ask you, is your customer better off? Ladies and gentlemen, having sold something to anybody, would you accept that your customer is better off? Yes or no? Yes. Sure. Of course they're better off. Of course they are. The old adage of selling, you know, it's not where one wins and one loses. Either both win or both lose. Normally when you go out of a sale, one goes out feeling the customer is better off. The customer is certainly happier. Number 11, give real service. Now, if the service is outstanding, you can forget the competition. Would you all accept that? If your service is outstanding, the competition has no chance. Now, the extraordinary thing about service is that everybody believes they give good service. Everybody believes that. You ask any organization, phone them up and say, what's your service like? Oh, service is great. You ask anybody in business, do you give good service? Oh, very, very good service. Everybody says that. We're all salespeople here, ladies and gentlemen. Can I ask you, the last time that you made a purchase and you were given outstanding service that went with that purchase? Hard to remember, isn't it? Good service is very, very rare. I remember the first time I went to America. I went into one of those ice cream parlors, the sort of things that we see all up and down the countryside right now. And I'd never seen one of these places before. And I suppose I spent about 20 minutes choosing an ice cream. I said, what was that one? They said, that one's pistachio with rum. What's that one? That's mint with choc chips. And this went on and on and on. And a complete explanation on each one. After about 20 minutes, I made my choice. I paid for the ice cream. And the lady assistant, giving me the change, said, thank you, sir. Do come again. I couldn't believe it. And they dropped the darn thing. I just come out of England at that time, and if I'd spent 20 minutes choosing an ice cream, I'd be given it upside down and banned for life. No. So service can mean a lot of different things to a lot of different people. A short time ago, some research and a test was carried out in a department store to try and find out what their service was like. And what they did was this. One group of counters, when they were giving change to the customers, were instructed to give the change straight into the customer's hand, to make physical contact of touch. On another group of counters, they were instructed that when they gave the change, they either to drop it in the customer's hand or put it on the counter, so the customer had to pick it up from there. They then checked, as everybody came out of the department store, to ask them what was the service like. And they, of course, took account of which counters they'd been served on. They found overwhelmingly everybody who had been given the change in the hand and had physical touch said the service was very good. And the others that had to pick it up or it was dropped in the hand said the service was lousy. So service can mean a lot of different things to a lot of different people. But I suppose it all starts off with caring about people. Caring about people. Let's talk about complaints for a minute, because that's all part of having and providing a good service. I'm going to suggest to you, ladies and gentlemen, that you should welcome complaints. Now, you may think that's a little bit funny or a little bit daft, but we should welcome a complaint. People in business who say they never, ever get any complaints, the one thing is certain, they don't do too much business. Would you all accept that? If you're going to do a lot of business, you're going to get complaints. But equally do accept, it's not a sign of how successful you are as to how many complaints you're getting. But if you're going to do a lot of business, you're going to get complaints from time to time. But how do you handle complaints? Let's see the normal sort of process in handling complaints. Picture you go out for a meal. And as you're getting into your steak, you're perhaps with a friend or a colleague or your wife or whoever, you're getting into your steak and you find it's tough. You say to your colleague, what's your steak like? Oh, mine's tough too. Mine's a bit cold. Shall we complain? No, we won't complain. We won't want to make a fuss. No, no. And you struggle on through the meal because normally we don't like complaining, do we? We don't like to make a fuss. But what happens next day? Next day, tell our in-laws, outlaws, aunts and uncles, everybody is told. Don't go there, terrible place, lousy meal, tough steaks, cold. Now, that's the normal sort of process. So when somebody actually comes on the phone, or they arrive at your office or wherever to complain, welcome them. They are telling you, and you have a chance to do something about it. And you know, ladies and gentlemen, the times when you've handled a complaint well, you've turned that to be a customer for life. Haven't you experienced that? Sure you have. So welcome complaints, handle them well. And this leads on to, if you've got some bad news, let's say you promised delivery on one day next week, Thursday of next week. You get to Wednesday and you find you can't meet that delivery date. Don't wait till Thursday and the customer rings up and try and find out where his product is. Ring on Wednesday. Tell people the bad news. They can always accept that, but tell them. Another example of service. In fact, it's another story. A short time ago, one of my clients had a 2-page write-up in one of the marketing magazines. They'd won an award in industry. And I saw this write-up, and I wrote off to the sales director just a short line. It was headed up with, "Dear Simon, I've seen your award. Congratulations. Well done. I'm sure it's thoroughly deserved." Forgot completely all about it. So some few weeks later, I was in Glasgow eating a meal at the Excelsior Hotel just by the airport one evening, and sitting at the table alongside me was this colleague of mine. And I said, "Oh, hi, Simon." We chatted for a minute or two. And he said, "Oh, by the way, Rich, I want to thank you for your letter. Do you know that was the only one we had in?" Now that's really rather sad, isn't it? Here was a company with something like 20,000 employees, and they had one measly little letter in congratulating them on their award. And I might add, a lot of business suddenly started to come from that particular client. But that wasn't the intention as to the reason as to why I wrote the letter. It's a part of caring. Care about people. That's what good service is. Number 12. Find your USPs. Your unique sales points. None are identical. No product, no service, no company is identical. And it's again one of the feelings that so many salespeople get into is they believe that there is nothing special about their product. You must find your USPs and communicate your USPs to your prospective clients. For example, let's take a very quick example. Banks. Would you all accept that the majority of banks are all very, very similar? Would you all accept that? Yes. Building societies. Very, very similar. Of course, I do accept that they don't all believe they are very, very similar. And there are certain product lines that they've developed and certain services that are a little bit special to them. We, as the majority of customers are concerned, see the building societies and the banks out there in the high street as all being very, very similar. Now, part of the function of the modern-day finance manager is to go out and bring in money. They have to go out and sell their services in the marketplace, which is really rather nice as far as we're concerned as customers, rather than having to go in and plead with them from the other side of the desk. But their job is to go out and sell, to bring in the money. Now, the majority of building societies, as far as we as the customers are concerned, have interest rates that are very, very similar. Now, what can be the unique sales points as far as a given building society is concerned? And I'm going to suggest that the unique sales point would be the manager himself. And he would get in front of a prospective client, be it a solicitor, be it a decision maker, be it an accountant, and say, as well as the service that my society gives, you also have me. And if you're worried about anything, come in and have a chat. Let's discuss it all through. If at any time I can help or advise and call in all the backup of the wealth of experience behind me within my organization, you will most certainly have it. He must sell himself, so his USP is the individual. So let's find our USPs and sell those USPs. Number 13, show, don't tell. People buy more by their eyes than they do just by their ears. So let your customer hold, feel, and touch if you can. And it's the way you show things to people that are so important. For example, let's take my handbag again. Okay, as you see, ladies and gentlemen, this is one of our fine quality range of leather handbags. This is the black one. We have a range of different colours. It's got a nice flap on the side here. That's for keeping change in, and a zip down the bottom here. That's for putting money in there. And that's another pocket in there for putting things in. And a good carrying handle. Very strong, very durable, fine quality handbag. That's one way. Now let's take it another way and perhaps build a bit of value into that particular handbag. And the words that I'm saying here are not important. Just look at the hand movements. As you can see, ladies and gentlemen, this is one of our range of handbags. This is, in fact, a leather one. We have a range of different colours. Over here is a nice flap for opening it up and for keeping change in. On the side, we have a zip for keeping a wallet in, and, of course, credit cards, and a further zip on the back, and then a very nice carrying handle here that means that you'll be able to keep the bag completely safe without it being pilfered, because you can either suspend it on a hand or fasten it to a belt. It's the hand movements. Can I ask you, ladies and gentlemen, of those two sales presentations, which would be the better handbag? The first or the second? Now, we all know the answer to the second. Just by building value through hand movements, whenever you show anything to anybody, be it a picture, be it a piece of microfilm, whatever it may be, build value through hand movements. The way you handle your product, in turn, reflects to your potential customer, and if he sees you handle it well, automatically it is worth more. So build value through good hand movements. Number 14, don't knock the competition. Okay, everybody's aware of that, but it still happens. Salespeople do knock the competition. Don't talk about the competition. Whatever you do, don't raise the competition up. It's a mistake that so many people make in the world of selling. They get hung up over the competition. They appear to be concerned over the competition, and then automatically their customers become concerned. Obviously, from time to time, your potential customers are going to say to you, and what about the competition or whatever, or they might even name a competitor or a company. But don't be concerned. They say, what about it? You say, oh, I'm glad, oh, I was hoping you weren't going to ask me about them. Well, you know, they're very good. They've got some good lines, and we have a job beating them. The concern shows itself. Whereas if you say, oh, fine, they're a nice company. Yes, fine, you know, and you just no concern whatsoever, they automatically then don't become concerned either. And finally, number 15, tell what you can do, not what you can't. I love that line. I really do. You know, from all of us from time to time, we call up a service company. And isn't it extraordinary? The first thing they want to communicate is what they can't do. You say, when can you send a service engineer around? Oh, can't do it, not for another 2 or 3 weeks. Oh, definitely can't. Why do they say that? What they should say is, I can call on the 14th, morning or afternoon. Tell what you can. As soon as anybody says what they can't do, everybody wants that, don't they? You can't come for 3 weeks or can't come for 2 days or whatever. Oh, I want it earlier than that. Whereas as soon as you say a date and give a time, it sounds more professional. So, ladies and gentlemen, tell what you can do, never what you can't. "15 basic skills of professional selling." But how do they all come together in practice? That's what we'll be looking at in part 5, the 7 crucial stages of the sales presentation itself. See you then.